are here. It's a little bit past 1, so thank you guys for being patient. But we are here today with the Eventful Life TV, and we are kicking off our new series, Living Out Loud. And I'm so excited for this conversation today, guys, because I think it is much needed, especially with just the climate that we have currently right now in the world. But also particularly because I have a wonderful guest who she is definitely going to be able to speak to, just a lot of things that I think each of us have been asking ourselves about, how can we get involved? How do we, what can we do? How do we get involved and do some of the things that can drive some change? But just as, as women who are trying to, insert ourselves, right? So that we can drive real change. And I've just been able to watch her do some of this driving change on the professional level and the personal level. So Deborah, I am just so grateful and excited to have you here today. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you, Janelle. And, please feel free to call me Deb. It's been a tough few weeks. Going from, the pandemic, right? So we're sort of in the backdrop and really a few months with that and quarantined and, people in the Black community in particular. I'm in New Orleans. I'm on Central Time. There was a period of time there over 7 days in a row. I either knew someone who passed away or I knew the family member of someone who passed away. 7 days in a row, back in the late March, early April timeframe. And it was scary. It was scary because you just didn't know what to do. And then, you move from that and then you've got the George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, the Christian Cooper and Amy Cooper in Central Park, and it goes on and on. Yeah. And it's heavy, right? It's heavy, because we still have to live. We're still mothers, we're still wives and fiancés and all that. But it's heavy. It's heavy. But I'm doing okay. I believe in self-care, so I'm doing okay today. Thank you for having me.
Yes. No, you are absolutely right. And it is particularly important that through these times we take care of ourselves. I think even on a day-to-day, we have to realize that if we don't take care of ourselves first, then it's going to be very hard for us to take care of others or be an advocate for others. But speaking of just advocacy, I want to talk a little bit about so that people can know who you are and just some of the things that you've been able to do. I know you and I first came in contact when you were actually still with GE at that time.
Yeah.
But I know you have in the last couple of years kind of shifted into your own space, which I think is dynamic. And so I want to talk a little bit about that.
Well, so when we met, I don't know, 5 years ago or so, 6 years ago, I was president and CEO of the GE Foundation and the Global Chief Diversity Officer for GE, living in Fairfield, Connecticut. And I retired. Three things happened for me all within a 6-month period. My younger daughter graduated high school, got into Tulane. The company decided to move its headquarters from Connecticut to Boston, and I hit 30 years with the company. And so when all those three things converged, it was sort of the perfect storm. And I said, well, deuces, I'm out. Moved home to New Orleans and actually had planned to become a lady who lunched. I was lunching with folks, old friends. I'm from here. Yeah. It was lovely. And people started calling me to do stuff and say, hey, would you come and maybe speak here? Or could you kind of help out or maybe coach this person? And
yeah, I said, well, they didn't want to let you be retired. They were like, no.
I flunked retirement. I absolutely flunked retirement. People say, well, you're an entrepreneur. It took me 6 months to say that. I'm like, I'm the accidental entrepreneur, That wasn't my dream, but I'm doing it. And so, so Corporate Playbook, my business does executive coaching, senior level executives, a lot of different industries. I do diversity and philanthropic consulting, and I've certainly been busy in the last few weeks.
Yeah,
how do you stand up? Sure. How do you stand up a diversity strategy? How do you think about your philanthropy in a way that is sort of in the sweet spot of your organization?
Right.
And I do crisis management in the diversity space. So that's really been the piece here of late, with a lot of organizations wanting to come out with statements and do stuff and do it quickly. So that's where I've been busy. And then I do just a lot of public speaking. So it's been good. You know, I'm
That's
the
what I was about
active.
to say. So really, retirement is not really where you landed at all.
You know, I'm living my best life
Yeah.
because I'm building upon the skills that I developed previously.
Right.
So, you know, some people go in totally different directions. I have a friend who was sort of doing one thing and decided to sort of open a food service concern because she loves to bake and
Wow.
so forth. But for me, it's really more of the continuum.
I love that. I love that. But I also love how it's a continuum, but it also kind of put you in a sphere that has allowed you to be able to have some of these really, important conversations that need to be had right now. So I want to kind of shift into that a bit, Deb, if you don't mind, with some of the corporations that you have been consulting with. Like you said, I know that one of the main things that has been on people's minds are how are these corporations going to, step up and kind of share where they stand with regards to Black Lives Matter as well as racial inequality, and how do they do that in a authentic way? Because I think that also has been the question on many people's minds is this really just a moment in which we are seeing corporations say something for now, but then only for it to fall to the background later?
Yeah, you know, it's a great question. And I look at this as a moment that has certainly turned into a movement. And I say that on a couple of fronts. There's the movement because of what we see in social media and what we see where everybody's a reporter now. Everybody has a cell phone. Everybody can record what they see in terms of interaction with the police or interaction with others, in the Amy Cooper case. So, you know, that's one piece of it. We've never had the volume of recordings and people able to capture things real time.
Right.
On the second piece of that, when companies say stuff, organizations say, here's what we stand for, here's what we're going to do, we can track that because social media can see what did you post and what have you done. So
Right.
on both sides of that equation now, there's almost sort of a watchdog, if you will, called social media that I think is going to hold people's feet to the fire. You know, I'm at a point in my life that I tell potential clients this straight up. I'm only taking on clients that I think are real. If you're not real, you don't want me, because I'm at a point in life where, you know, I've done a lot of heavy lifting of diversity and inclusion, and it needs to be where you really are coming to the table and you want to improve. You want to
Yeah.
change. I'll meet you where you are,
Right.
but you got to want to do the work. And I think organizations are just struggling because many of them have done something, but they don't know exactly what to do.
Hmm.
And for me, it's always about linking your strategy to the strategy of your organization, making sure that whatever your organization does, whatever you produce, whatever reason you exist, diversity's got to be embedded in that, because
Right.
then it's sustainable. If your company's sort of producing widgets over here and diversity is over there, then diversity is not important because all the important stuff is over here where the
Right.
company
Right.
mandated. So my strategy is always, how do we embed diversity? How do we look at everything we do through the lens of diversity?
That's good. That's good. So it's almost like it has to become ingrained,
Absolutely,
and
absolutely,
like a lifestyle almost, right? Like
absolutely,
you have to live this
absolutely.
each and every
Yeah.
day. I love
Yes.
that. I love that. So so with that, I'm sure we can all say we've seen um some actions that have been, great, and then we have seen some that have been, not so great, for lack of better words. Do you, when you are consulting, are you steering them with regards to, here is the playbook, like all the way down the tunnel, or does it stop with that first action?
You know, I think it's both and. I mean, you know, if I go back to 2 weekends ago, you know, it was a lot of people putting statements out. So I
Hmm.
spent my weekend reviewing statements, giving some input or suggestions on what are you going to actually say, and are you saying something that you can actually do? You
Right.
don't have to have figured out all the steps,
Right.
but if you're going to commit dollars to something, some concept, and you know you can do that, that's great. We can figure out all the steps down the road.
Yeah.
But so that was it was so speed was important 2 weekends ago.
Right.
I think for now it's the okay, what are the next steps and how do we create sustainable change? How do we
Mhm.
engage employees of any organization? Because it can't be Deb flying in and saying, oh, do this, wave the
Right.
magic wand.
Exactly.
It's got to be
Have to come from
engaging
them.
all the stakeholders.
Mhm.
And what I find interesting is the most important stakeholders in any organization are your own employees. You know,
Mm.
what do your own employees? I mean, there's a couple of cases right now where a company went out and said X, but the employees said, no, no,
Right.
that's not what we're living here. And
Right.
not that every employee situation is going to be indicative of the culture, but when you've got tons of people saying, no, that doesn't ring true to us, that's a
Mhm.
problem.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And to your point, yeah, you definitely have seen the discord between the employees. Some who are like, no, that's not what at all what is happening,
Right.
and the statement that's being put out there. I want to mention, I know we talked earlier that about some of the work you're doing that you've done recently with Nordstrom, and bringing some of those conversations, to light through that initiative, through that effort. Is that something that if someone is interested in taking a look at, is that available for them to take a look at it?
Yeah. Nordstrom is a great company. I've been working with them for a while, and you can go on my website, corporateplaybook.com, and certainly see my client list. But one of the things we put together rather quickly was something called a courageous conversation.
Mm,
And I was simply the moderator. So I was simply the
yeah.
person to pull voices out, but it was voices of their own employees. And it's posted on all of Nordstrom's social media channels. So you can take a look at it, the highlight reel. But in my mind, it was the first real step of hearing what the employees had to say on this particular issue. These
Hmm.
are things they had been doing ongoing. They've had courageous conversations, but on this particular issue, and I mean, we had thousands of employees and colleagues and
Wow.
leadership to participate in these calls. So I've been doing that for a number of clients who really
Oh,
want to facilitate and hear the voice of employees or even the voice of customers in some cases. So
yeah.
that's gratifying. It's heavy stuff though. I mean, it's
Yeah,
heavy,
yeah. But I
but
want to call particular attention to it because I think if someone is looking for an example of
yes,
how to get it right, or
yeah,
even where to start right, then
yeah.
I think that's a
You
great
got
place
to
to
listen to
start.
what your own folks are saying. And so in these conversations, you move from the how are you doing now to
Mhm.
what should we do better? Because
Right.
again, I'm always an advocate. Employees of an organization always know what should be done, what could be done better.
Mhm.
They may not have all the tools, but inherently, because they're in the organization and they care about it, they can bring to light. Yeah, if we just did this, then you can flush it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've been facilitating those for a number of clients. I've been very busy over the last 2 weeks.
Awesome. Yes, awesome. Well, I think we need to have more of it, and I'm just glad that you're at the forefront and in the helm of doing it. So let's also talk on the personal side as well, Deb, because you mentioned earlier that you also are the mom to two beautiful young women who
Yeah,
are
yeah,
out here doing their thing and
yes,
moving
yes,
freely in the world as they should. Um,
yes.
and so I know that you also obviously have to have concerns from a personal standpoint as to what are your daughters encountering, and how are when they look to you as a mom who is on the front lines also driving change and action. What does that mean from the standpoint and the viewpoint of a mother? So let's talk about that a little bit too.
Well, I think, my daughters are in their early 20s and very different, very close to each other, but very different in terms of personality. And
Sure.
they both, in their own way, experience what we're experiencing now, going again from pandemic to the social unrest and the social injustice. And, I'm very proud of them because they have challenged their high school in one regard to say do better,
Mm,
along with other Black alums. And I'm very, very proud of that because I think it's something that's needed, not in a mean spirited way, but to say, look, let's look constructively at what our experience was, what the current experience is of Black students, and
mhm.
how can we move forward. So that's good. My older daughter's in New York, living the dream, doing her thing. She's a social media marketing manager and doing
Yeah.
yoga teaching and certification right now. And My younger, very entrepreneurial in that regard. My younger daughter just graduated from Tulane a few weeks
Right.
ago, and she wants to be a screenwriter. That's her long-term dream. So, of course, was interviewing, and of course, the job market kind of came to a standstill with COVID. So,
Right.
so they're both thriving, but I think they both are very conscious of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Do I worry? Yeah, I worry. Of course, I worry. You go to a protest and you see things happening, and as a mother, that's tough. But
Mm-hmm.
I also I want them to live their truth. I want them to participate in this moment that's become a movement in a way that makes sense for them.
That's so important, and I love the fact that you've had those conversations with
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
but also now they're enacting it in their own way,
Yeah.
to use their voice in their own way. So speaking of the personal side and just how you've been able to move through some of what's happening. Take us back to a time, kind of when you first experienced racism, in your own way. And I know we touched on this a little bit when you
Yeah.
were when you
Yeah.
had lived or moved, I think, in Atlanta.
Yeah, it's interesting. I did have a scenario in Atlanta, but I want to also touch on sort of the first time, because you said the first time I thought about race. And I hadn't thought about this in a long time, but I grew up in New Orleans. And when I grew up, schools were very much segregated. Not every single school, but the public schools were sort of post-legal segregation, but pragmatically still very segregated.
Mm-hmm.
And we had school books that we got all the time. And then, the first day of school, you'd get the school book and you had to put a book cover on it because it was so raggedy. It was so raggedy. You had to erase
Oh,
stuff and all that. And,
wow.
but that's what we did. But again, I'm a little girl. I'm elementary school. That's what we did.
Yeah.
In seventh grade, I went to a different school, which was a predominantly white girls' Catholic school, Ursuline Academy. And I remember when we went for orientation, seventh grade, everybody had a stack of books and they were brand new. And I remember opening the book, and even right now, I can smell the newness of the textbook. It was the
Mm.
stack of textbooks. And it was the first time that it really hit me just how old and raggedy and hand-me-down books the books were that we had in the Black elementary school. They had been handed down from the white schools. And
Mm.
I never really realized it because that was my reality. That's
Right.
just what we did.
Right.
That's
That's
just
all you
what the books
knew.
was like. That's all I knew.
Mhm.
And then in that moment, I just remember going home and talking to my mom about it. And I said, this is terrible.
Mm.
And I guess at that point she realized, and I think she was very pained that it had hit me for the first time, really, of how tough that was. I had another scenario when I lived in Atlanta years ago where this is so minor, but it's mostly women on this call probably, but I was at the shopping mall, and it was a busy shopping day. And you know how you go in the ladies' room and there's like a large,
Yeah.
long number of stalls. And so I go in and there's a line. And so I, do what I have to do. And then I come out, and when you come out, you kind of hold the door for the next person.
Mm.
And there was a white woman standing there. And when I opened it, she looked at me with like horror, like just horror. And then she ran to another stall that opened.
Mm.
And then I realized, oh, wow, you didn't want to come in here because I'm Black,
Mm.
and
Wow.
it was just like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was heavy and it was deep. And then because
And it's
I
also
am
one of those
that,
things that don't really hit you until kind of after the fact, right? Like in the moment, you're not really like you're not zeroed in on is that what's really happening right now,
yeah, well, it went real from like 0 to 100 for me fast. Cause then I sort of yelled at her, hey, it doesn't rub off.
Oh gosh.
So it went up, it went from nothing to something real quick.
Right.
But there you go.
But hey, you have to call it what it is.
You got to do what you need to do to navigate this stuff,
Yeah.
right? And that was my response, though, because initially it was what, and then I
Right.
said, it doesn't rub off, lady.
Mm.
But anyway, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Good for you. Wow. But and I know I've had several conversations in the last week just with colleagues and other friends, inner circles, where we've talked about covert versus overt, racism. And sometimes covert can be equally as painful as overt. And so I think, like you said, just navigating that when it happens can definitely be challenging, you know, and it's
Yeah,
something.
I mean, it's like that example. It's like that, you're in a line at the grocery store, and you say thank you, you pay, you check out, and you're maybe standing there, and the next person gets something like, oh, thanks for shopping here, and you're like, whoa,
Right,
what was
right.
that
Like,
about?
where is my
Where's my thanks for shopping here?
yes, yes. But these are the things that I'm glad to see that we have conversations starting to open up around it. You know, eyes are being opened, ears are being opened. And so it makes me hopeful that we're moving into hopefully a different, like you said earlier, not just a moment, but hopefully a movement of,
Yes,
of change
yes.
in our thought process and hopefully in our system, you
Yes,
know.
yes,
So
absolutely. I really believe that, because the speed at which information is shared is
mm,
what makes this different.
yes.
That's what makes this different, because a lot of times, a lot of these things just go unnoticed.
Hmm.
I tell people, I said, sometimes you think, these are my non-African American friends and colleagues, you think this is happening. I said, this isn't even new. This
Yeah.
has been happening. We're just recording it now.
Right, right. Exactly, exactly. It's being recorded and like you said, being seen on a global level. Sometimes it
Absolutely.
takes that spotlight. So as we move into or as you move into and navigate these conversations, what is your advice, you know, just for other women out here who are trying to figure out how do I, you know, move into action, or how do I contribute in a positive way to being a part of the solution of the change that needs to happen? What are some of your thoughts about that on a personal level? Because obviously you have your professional work that you do,
Sure,
but
sure.
on a personal level, what would be your advice to someone, a woman out there who's thinking about?
Yeah, I would say the first thing, I always come from a point of authenticity.
Mhm.
So be yourself. And with that, follow your gut. Your gut will help you navigate what is the right lane for you to play in. What's the right thing for you to do that works for you? I can remember Reverend Al Sharpton. I was in a conversation with him, and he was speaking at something for us at GE. And I remember him saying to the audience, was a large audience, he said, look, I don't need Deb Elam out here marching with us. I need Deb Elam in the boardroom and in the
Mm,
C-suite, making sure the people there understand why we are marching.
right.
We each have a role to play.
That's
We
good.
each have a role where we can be effective and we can feel like we've been productive and that we're really impacting change. So
Yeah.
don't feel like you've got to be pressured into doing something that's not your thing. Do
Hmm.
what you do. I was one of our friends, Verge Osbury, is one of the assistant athletic directors at LSU, where I went to school. And one of the things he came out with about a week ago was he's going to ensure that student athletes are registered to vote. That's
That's
something that
wonderful.
he can do. What can I do to be sure student athletes are registered to vote in his sphere of control, sphere of influence, and
Exactly.
in his lane? And so I said, that's a great example to me of do what it is that you can control and it makes you feel like you're contributing. Everybody has a role to play.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes, I love that. I love that. And I have a colleague who also says, you know, activate your or activism your way, you know,
Yeah.
Sharon Washington. And I truly believe that. Like you said, everyone doesn't have to be doing the same thing or playing the
Right.
same role as
Right.
long as we're getting to the same goal. So
Right.
so
Right.
that's
I
beautiful.
like that. That even rhymes.
Yeah, right. And I promise you I didn't do that on purpose.
I'm gonna have to write that one down. I like that.
So I wanna also talk, you know, talk a little bit about since we're on the personal side, you know, I know one of the other things that has been so wonderful is that you also are engaged and, you know, loving life, like you said, you know, living your best life, but also, you know, finding some love while you live in it. So, you know, I think that is a wonderful thing because, you know, sometimes we contribute you know, love and marriage to the younger folk, right? Or to
Yeah.
the folks who are just getting married for the first time. But
Yeah.
you know, that has been a bright spot in the midst of, I always talk about silver linings in the midst of storms, right? I
Yeah.
think that is definitely a bright spot. And so I want to talk a little bit about it. How are you guys as a couple navigating, some of this stuff right now?
Well, it's interesting. So yes, so I am engaged to be married, and unfortunately, was supposed to be later this year. Just postponed it due to COVID. So
Right.
date is sort of wait and see once we know that people are safe and maybe
Yeah,
there's
because
a
it
vaccine at
really
some
shut
point.
down a lot of
Yeah,
weddings,
yeah.
to be honest.
Oh, absolutely. But I feel worse for first time couples and younger couples who are probably just freaking out. I mean, I'm good because we're gonna do it when we do it. We're gonna
I
do
was
it
gonna
right.
say y'all good because y'all like this. It's
We're
love
gonna
no
do it.
matter
We're gonna
what.
do it NOLA style. We're gonna do it NOLA style. So it's gonna be all good. But no, I mean, it's great. I tell people, love can be around the corner. Love can meet you when you're not really looking. And I connected with somebody over Facebook, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
His name is Cary Grant, just like the actor. And we had gone to elementary school together. We grew up 2.5 blocks from each
Wow.
other.
So you guys didn't know each other at that time.
We knew each other because
Okay.
we were a grade apart in school, but we never dated. We never had any romantic involvement, but we knew who each other was, and connected on Facebook about 8 years ago.
Wow.
So, it was just literally one of those things. I was in Connecticut, he was in New Orleans, things in common, and have been, dating and subsequently engaged ever since. So I always tell people, and I'm, love over 50 and Black love over 50, and I'm well over 50 at this point.
But
But
looking fabulous, right?
thank you.
There's that self-care.
Yeah, no, I see the six coming over the bend now. But so what? Right? Live your
Yeah.
best life whenever you want to. And so I just tell sisters, look, it's you never know who Mr. Right is. You never
That's right.
know. And certainly COVID, if anything, quarantine has solidified
Yeah,
that he is Mr. Right.
that's right. That's
Because
right. If
COVID
you
has
didn't
brought
know
a lot of
somebody,
clarity. Oh, yeah, yeah. Quarantine brings a lot of clarity to people, but it has solidified that he is Mr. Right and Mr. Wonderful. So,
yes. And I love that you guys met, like you said, met or reconnected, over Facebook, because
yeah,
sometimes, social media gets a bad rep for, all these things, making people feel all these different
no.
ways. But it just goes to show that, a
Oh,
tool
yeah.
is how it's used, not,
Oh, yeah. No, no, no. I tell people all the time, Facebook, somebody should tell the people at Facebook, Facebook, love over 50.
yes,
It all
it should
works
be
for us.
a
It's
thing.
great.
That might be a show. That might be a show, Deb.
It's a show. There you go. You tell the Facebook crowd that.
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, as we kind of start wrapping up here, let me know, share with us kind of what you see in your immediate future for Deb. And also I want to talk a little bit about dining with Deb, because that's something, again,
Yeah.
a nice bright spot that came about, after you kind of left
Yeah. Yeah.
corporate America. So definitely want you to share with the audience a little bit about that also.
Sure. So Dining with Deb, and you can go to the website, diningwithdeb.com, was something I started 3 years ago. I moved home to New Orleans, and it was the tricentennial of the city and that year. And as I looked at the programming, it sort of seemed like there wasn't enough around women and professional women. And I know women's contributions have been tremendous. So I said, well, what if I put something together that would be for professional women, an opportunity to connect? So it was a dining experience. It ended up being dinner. The first year, which was 2018, we did it the night before International Women's Day. We had over 200 women. We were sold out. We had TED Talk type speeches, and Cokie Roberts, who recently passed away, was our keynote. We did a fireside chat, and lots of women had a chance to interact with her that night, which is just beautiful, as one of the first early women in broadcasting and reporting. Cokie was just legendary.
Wow.
But, intentionally across racial lines, intentionally across generational lines, intentionally across political lines, industry lines. It was just about connecting as professional women.
Yeah.
So we decided to do it again the second year, which was 2019, last year. And we had over 300 women, sold out, waiting list. And we're going to take it out to Beverly Hills in March, but COVID sort of put an abrupt end to that. But we'll do it again. So join the mailing list.
You have to do it again, because I definitely want to attend. And I
Yes,
know
yes.
now that people are hearing about it, other women are hearing about it, they're going to want to attend as
Yeah,
well.
no, and we're looking at taking it on the road. Like I said, I did did it in New Orleans the first 2 years because that's where I am and where my base is, but we've had interest in other cities. So if you have an interest in bringing Dining with Deb to your city, go on my mailing list and communicate with us, and we'll check it out.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm going to advocate that it comes to DC. Okay, I think that would be phenomenal. But what I like particularly about what you said is how it really navigates and crosses over all the lines.
Yeah,
Because to me that's where we are right now. We need to
yeah,
navigate and be willing to cross over the
yeah.
lines.
Right. We can't be in our own circles. I
Right.
can only help you if I know you. I've got to have a relationship with you. I can advocate for you if I know who you are. That goes on all sides. And so you're right. I mean, it's funny because for me, given that I do diversity work, it's like it can't be all one group, all one sector. It's got to cross all that. And I mean, it was so powerful. And the women who went were so uplifted, and it was so inspiring. I mean, it
Yeah.
was really great.
Yeah, no, I'm inspired listening to you talk about it. So I know it is probably something very powerful and can't wait to attend. So okay, last question for you. What is your favorite, most loved number one quote that you would share with anyone, anywhere, anytime? Lay it on us.
Okay, I don't know if this is all of that, but a quote that I share with women, with people frequently is always bring your A game.
Mm,
Always bring your A game. That's the short version. And what that means is, there's the bring your A game, meaning bringing your top game, your top level, but it also means bring your authentic game. A
yeah,
is also for authentic. Bring who you are to the table. And I think no matter what you do, if you're even outside cleaning up, bring your A game. Clean those corners. Make
yeah,
sure you get the windows.
yeah,
Whatever you do, do it well.
yeah.
So that's it for you. Always bring your A game.
That's good. That's good. Always bring your A game. I love that. And again, authenticity, being authentic while you bring it, right?
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Deb. This was amazing. I love your authenticity. You always bring that to whatever you do. And I'm excited, to continue to share this with the audience out there. Use your authenticity to advocate in your own way, and I think that's really the message that Deb drove home here today. So I hope that you take that and use it the way that you can within your own circle of influence, and in your own way. So thank you again, Deb. I appreciate you so much. Look forward to seeing that beautiful wedding when we get out of this COVID stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Me too.
all right.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Remember, guys, you can have it all, but you have to be okay with having it on your own terms and your own time. So take care. And until next Thursday, we'll see you again.
Bye bye, everybody.